Hello there and welcome back to another review. So being such a huge big fan of the Resident Evil franchise and having reviewed the American movies with Mila Jovovich many moons ago now, so that seems ages ago since I reviewed their movies, I thought we'd have a look at Capcom's first sort of full-length CGI feature entry into the Resident Evil universe, and that is Resident Evil Degeneration, made back in 2008 and directed by Makoto Kamiya. Now what is great about these movies in the animated film series, say whatever you will about them, say whatever you want to about them, including Resident Evil Damnation, Vendetta, and most recently Death Island. What is great about them is that they're all canon. They're all part of the Resident Evil canon. So they all sync up with the games. It's not like it's an entity unto itself. It's not like this is a separate universe or anything like that. These are all very much canon with the Resident Evil games, and that's quite awesome. That's quite awesome. As I say, regardless of the films themselves, the fact they are part of the Resi canon is what's really good. And I say they're all linked and tied in with the video games. Now, right there, that is enough for me to give these movies a lot more respect than what the Hollywood movies sort of ever did. Also, what is good, especially with this one, and why I was so hyped for it, is because it was the first time we actually got to see Leon and Claire, I think, since Resident Evil 2 from 1990. I think in terms of what I mean is them two together, sort of like reunited, that kind of thing. I could be totally wrong. Totally wrong. I'm a Resident Evil fan, but I'm not, as I say, I'm not necessarily hardcore as you like, as I say, one of them people. But to my knowledge, I think it is the first time since the original Resident Evil 2 that we actually got to see Claire and Leon together. That, I mean, Resident Evil 2 being one of my favourite video games of all time, and I was really looking forward to this movie. Now, say what you will about these movies, and I know they do have their critics. The main criticism seeming that they are all just like, a lot of people say they're just like a full-length like computer game cutscene, which is sort of a fair comment, really. I think that is sort of how it can be. I mean, I can see where they're coming from with that. But that aside, the fact of the matter of these, the fact of the matter is with these movies, they actually feel like Resident Evil, regardless of whether you think it's like a full-length video game cutscene or whatever, but they feel like Resident Evil, and that is so important, and that is a huge, let's say, huge factor. Paul Mercier, the guy who voiced Leon in Resident Evil 4, reprises his role here, so that's quite cool. Though the Leon in this one is a lot more colder and straight to the point, the no-nonsense hero type with very little in the way of quips and some sarcastic one-liners that would occasionally happen in the game. It's a bit of a different Leon Kennedy we get here, but it's still Leon nonetheless. Now, is this movie a 5-star masterpiece? Of course it's not. Yes, some of the dialogue is pretty bad. Yes, some of the animation is lacking in some places, and yes, the plot is somewhat predictable, not the greatest. But to me, in my honest opinion, it's still better than the Paul W.S. Anderson movies, and it just goes without saying that if you're a Resident Evil fan, that you will probably find a lot to enjoy here. And I know Paul Anderson's Resi movies, I know he didn't direct them all or write them all, but I still view them as sort of his movies for some reason. I know he directed like the first one, and he had something to do with the second one, and he sort of directed the last three or four. But I think, I know, like I say, that their movies do have their fans, but I think these animated movies are a lot more. It just seems to be coming from a good, healthy Resident Evil place, if that makes sense. It seems to have the Resident Evil heart to it, and I think that's, like I say, very, very important. And like I say, if you're a Resident Evil fan, then you'll probably find a lot to enjoy here. Though the animation does look somewhat dated, not just now, but even then it didn't look amazingly great back in the day. Even the fact that was another thing a lot of people were critical of, the fact it's canon, the fact it's from a Japanese studio, the fact it's trying to give like fans more of a respectful Resident Evil movie than the Mila Jovovich movies ever did. I think it's very really unfair to be super hard on tough on this one. And yes, like I say, it does have its critics. There are a lot of criticisms about this movie. It's not perfect, as I say, but I think it's, you can't, I don't want to be too tough on it, but we'll get to it now. And I won't say what out of these animated movies, I won't say just yet what my favourite one is until I've sort of reviewed them all. I mean, I already know, but I'll keep you hanging on for that one. Actually, let me know below, what is your favourite of the Resident Evil movies and what do you think is the worst? I mean, yeah, we also have the Infinite Darkness TV show, and the way we also had the ill-received the Netflix Resident Evil show, and we also have Welcome to Raccoon City, which did get some things right, but there are some issues with that movie as well that I have. But anyway, we will get to them all. I will get to them all eventually, I promise. All for another time, and let's have a look at Resident Evil Degeneration. So Raccoon City has been nuked after the outbreak, and this company, Will Farmer, want to use taxpayers' money to set up like a research facility, and TerraSave, this like human rights organisation, wants them to publish their results. And it's quite a bit to take in here with these opening news broadcasts, and they make it seem, the thing is with this movie, like the setup and the way it begins with it, and it just seems like utter chaos right away. And it is a simple setup, but it seems more convoluted and confusing than it actually is. Like, initially, for that first 5 minutes or so, you have to sort of really pay attention, like who Will Farmer is, who TerraSave is, and all these kind of things. So they make it seem more confusing than it is. So, as I say, TerraSave want to sort of hassle Senator Davis, who is attending the pharmaceutical conference. We meet Claire, who has just arrived at the airport, and a guy in a plane is not feeling good and wants to meet Frederick Downing, who is like Will Farmer's head researcher. So Claire works for TerraSave, and it's you see what I mean? It's just quite a bit characters and companies and who's who and who's working for who's the bad one, who's the good one, and you just want to just like basically understand it all right away so you can get on enjoying the movie. So it can be quite a bit to take in. So like who is the senator, who is Downing, all these things. So basically the test subjects from Will Farmer are not good. A zombie appears at the airport and out of nowhere, just starts going crazy, bites the security guard, who bites one of the officers. People get bit, loads get bit. So anyway, mass panic ensues, and as you would expect from a zombie invasion at an airport, then a plane, just crashes into the airport. And I do like how the zombies just walk and fall out the door after this plane lands. Like this plane sort of crashes, like lands, and then the door opens, these zombies are just like walking and falling out the door. So the airport goes into lockdown after a zombie breakout. Leon turns up and Claire is still trapped inside with the senator, and he is helping the SRT, which for those of you who don't know is the Special Response Team. See what I mean? A lot to take, all these things that you've got to take in, sort of as as I say, seems more confusing as it is. Not confusing as in like the plot's confusing, but it's just like sort of, like say with the company and the characters, and it's like I say, you just want to know who's the good people, like who's the goodies, who's the baddies, and things like that. So no sooner are they trying to rescue her and loads of zombies ambush them, and despite some of the animation lacking in places, the fact it feels like Resident Evil, and that is such a, that's a huge thing. That's a very important thing. The fact I think it's got Resident Evil DNA in it, this movie. I think it's got Resident Evil blood in it, this movie, and I think that does count for a lot. Like they had the feel right. You almost get a sense with these movies, they may have been sort of, sometimes when I watched this again recently, and you can't help but think where it is canon, like these probably may have been sort of game ideas that they might have like brainstormed or discussed at one point. It's like, no, we'll take that idea and we can put that into a movie. It wouldn't have surprised me if they even at the very least considered like this setup and what's happening in this movie for a game idea. So, of course, Leon has to go in with like two collies who are useless, Greg and Angela, one being a complete hothead who just keeps wasting ammo. Claire is tasked with looking after this little girl, Rani. So Leon is like, we're going to run across the lobby and cue loads of loud music, loads of gunfire, zombies being shot. Greg, the hothead, gets bit. And that's you watch any movie, if there's a hothead, more often than not, 9 times out of 10, they'll be the first ones who get bit or mess up or, get killed or whatever it may be. And talking about the animation, for some reason, Leon looks compared to the other characters in the movie, Leon looks very stiff for whatever reason. I don't know why it is, but the Leon character in this with the animation, which, like I say, it is basically like a long video game cutscene, but the Leon character, for whatever reason, just looks a bit more stiff and wooden compared to some of the other characters. Don't ask me why. So after saving the young girl Rani, Leon gives Claire a slow motion gun toss, and there was me thinking it was only the live action movies that do that. It seems to, no matter what Resident Evil film it is, there's always somebody throwing a gun to somebody else in slow motion. It happens with Alice in the Paul Anderson movies all the time, and we get it here as well. So they get out. Claire slaps Davis for being a jerk. Angela is PO'd. She has lost Greg. Leon contacts Hannigan and wants to know who was behind the attack and looking for the whereabouts of former Umbrella employees. And that's all it is. Basically, there's just been an attack at an airport. That's all we really need to know. So Claire meets Frederick Downing, who, as I say, is Will Farmer's head researcher who developed a vaccine for the company. So these terrorists from General Grande, more characters thrown in just for good measure, as if we didn't sort of have enough to keep track of. It's like, like my previous review, like The Flight, where there was just 3 characters. Here, there's quite a number of characters to get hold on. So this general, terrorists, they want to get hold of the T-virus somehow, and in India it was administered and was a success. The character of Leon in this, as I mentioned, is very almost one-dimensional. Like, his lines are very stilted and straight to the point, but there is a nice touch to have these black and white flashbacks to Resident Evil 2, which I thought was quite a nice touch. And one of his lines from the movie, "I'm going to scrub this virus from the face of the earth," from Leon, proper macho, so Leon's a tough guy, he's a tough action guy. So the vaccine trucks, where they get blown up, and Leon reveals the terrorists want the truth about Umbrella and who was involved, or they will unleash the T-virus and only have 4 hours left. So there's a whole terrorist threat going on as well. There's a countdown. They got 4 hours. So we've got the whole terrorist threat going on. Claire suspects Curtis Miller, who just so happens to be the older brother of Angela. So her and Leon go to his home, and Claire has gone off with Downing. Curtis has set fire to his house, where Angela falls to her knees, and we learn as an audience that he lost his family in the Raccoon City tragedy. Meanwhile, Downing is showing Claire around the research facility, and believe you me, this thing's like a complete haven, this research facility. It's the most picturesque, beautiful research facility you've ever seen. I'd say it just looks like heaven on earth, this place. So say she's gone off with him, and I have to love how he gets her, at one point as well, he gets her a boiling hot coffee, and she drinks it right away. He doesn't blow on it or anything. So Davis doesn't want Claire there, so Angela is reminiscing about Curtis. Claire is having a coffee, no rush. It's not like the clock is ticking or anything, or there's a countdown, like you just said, Leon, that you've only got 4 hours and these terrorists are making demands. Claire's just chilling, having a coffee. Angela's having a little moment, reminiscing. There's no rush. It's not like the clock's ticking or anything with some terrorist demands, but no. So Downing has William Birkin's G-virus at the facility, and we learn that the senator was one of the people that gave the okay to bomb Raccoon City. So it's all sort of connected, bit to the old games, a bit to Resident Evil 2. And I say it's really cool they do have flashbacks to Resident Evil 2 as well, and William Birkin's mentioned as well. Curtis turns up at the research centre and a bomb goes off. Suddenly Leon and Angela are there, boom, they're right there walking into the lobby. And I will say, I was quite into it at this point. Okay, it wasn't great, but it had my interest, if nothing else. It wasn't like I was absolutely blown off my feet by this movie, but I was still sort of invested, so to speak. And like I mentioned, it does feel like Resident Evil. Curtis injects himself with the G-virus, and you sort of see where this is going. Curtis has a grudge to bear. He's injected himself with the G-virus, so you sort of see where this is going. Marines turn up, suddenly zombies in the building too, and I thought it was just a bomb. Leon comes to save Angela from Curtis as he has wiped out some Marines, and out of nowhere suddenly he has a grenade launcher which he uses to shoot down a walkway. So the building's going to blow up, all exits sealed, and Curtis turns into Ultra G-virus form, and the place is going to be incinerated in 60 seconds. You still get, even in this, that's why I think sometimes this might have been an idea for a game, because you still get the countdown of the facility, as there always is in a Resident Evil game. There's always the countdown at the end of the game. And you get it here as well. So Leon throws a dagger at Curtis's eyes. They can't use guns at this point as the place is covered in ethanol. And Leon reckons he sees Angela as I think he mentions Curtis sees Angela as a breeding tool. Okay. They dive into a pool of water, and this place, it's like heaven. It was like heaven a minute ago. Now it's just like hell on earth. This place, it's gone from something so beautiful and tranquil to as I say, this is just hell on earth at this point. Makes me laugh. They shoot this window to get out, and after sliding a bit and standing up, they get wet, and after standing up, they seem completely dry when they should have been soaked. So Curtis is resilient as ever. The place is falling apart again. Really does feel like this could have been a game. And what is the crying shame with the Curtis character? It's we never really got to know the guy. I know he's got his grievances with Raccoon City and what happened, and he lost people in that with Raccoon City and the tragedy that happened there. But you can't really ever sort of sympathise with him or get on board with him, because you never really know the guy anyway. The character's only there just as basically an antagonist, like a physical antagonist for Leon to deal with, and also just somebody that's just going to use the G virus on themselves, and that's all he's really there to do. But yeah, it's a shame, we don't get overly invested in it. All we know is he had a tragedy that happened and he is Angela's brother, and that is it. So we have a slow-mo bullet shot into Curtis from Leon. He saves Angela, floors collapsing. Shame actually as well we didn't get more Claire, as the whole thing at this stage is just Leon and Angela, just a set piece involving them two. Get some more slow motion just for good measure, when they're just like staring at each other. And I remember the first time watching this, I thought the film had froze. There's a moment in the movie where they just sort of standing there, sort of staring at each other. And I remember the first time seeing it, I was like, oh, the film's glitched or something like that. But watching it again, that scene, it's still like the stare goes on, a bit too long. So Claire accuses Davis, the senator, of supporting terrorism, so Will Farmer's stock would be better after using the vaccine. Turns out Downing is the main villain, as he is like a former employee of Umbrella, and he plans to sell the T virus and the T vaccine to this General Grande. Again, someone who we hardly see, by the way. He's mentioned, you think he's going to be the villain, and then you don't hardly see him at all. That is it. He's basically just mentioned in name only. You do get glimpses of him, but nothing much at all. Angela, Leon and Claire somehow find Downing, and he orchestrated the attack in India too. He basically stole the virus and found employment at Will Farmer, and the incidents were meant to be like trials and showcases for this general, basically. Again, once it's over, the whole thing is so simple, but initially when the film starts, if you're seeing it for the first time, especially if you're not familiar with any Resident Evil lore or any of the games or anything like that, you would be going into this. A lot would go over your head if you were not too familiar with the games and like characters from the game. So, as I say, he basically started very simple. And as I say, he used like these incidents as a sort of a showcase to the general. So Angela at the end has like a floral dress on. And for some reason, to say she's got changed. And Leon and Claire haven't changed for some reason. And then we get Leon explaining the whole film, the whole film's plot right at the end. Don't you hate it sometimes when films do that? Like the film's over, you've sort of, you've seen the film, and then one of the characters explains the whole plot, what everything you've just seen in the past 90 minutes. So Claire and Leon part ways, and even at this point the characters were like 10 years old, and it's a real testament to how long these two beloved characters have endured in Claire Redfield and Leon Kennedy, which is quite, I think that's quite awesome. Ends with Davis dead and the group Tricell taking all the files and extracting what they can from the office and Curtis's body, and sort of thus concludes Resident Evil Degeneration. Not perfect by any means, but I think it has its place in the Resident Evil universe. Still enjoyable. Animation a bit wonky, a bit stilted in places. Say, bit of a different Leon to what you get. I'd say the Leon in the game sometimes has sort of smart remarks. He has sometimes a bit of a cheekiness about him, a little bit of sense of humour. This is very much a straight Leon we get in this movie. As I say, the animation, bit stilted, bit wonky. As I say, very much, the dialogue is stilted, I mean. But as I say, the animation isn't great, but it's passable. But I think, like I say, even when it came out at the time, it didn't look great. And now it's not the best animation you'll ever see. And it is a bit like a long cutscene, but overall I enjoyed it. And I think it's just great to watch a Resident Evil movie that is actually canon, with characters you actually know, unlike the Paul Anderson movies where the characters are in there, usually by name only. They don't have any relevance to the games whatsoever, and then they're there, like there's Barry Burton, there's Leon Kennedy, here's Ada Wong, and then they just disappear. That's what usually happens in the Paul Anderson universe. But as I say, I will hoping to get through all these animated Resident Evil movies. But let me know what is your favourite, if you've seen any of the movies, what is your favourite one, or if you enjoyed Degeneration. So thank you very much indeed for watching. Hope you enjoyed the review. I'll see you again soon.
Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory.